Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me here at Mayhem. How are you enjoying it so far?
Mayhem's fun, it's like get to spend a summer, in my homeland, which is awesome. It seems every summer in my life seems to be spent in Europe, which is always awesome, and I'm sure we'll do it again next year, but, having a year away is going to make next year that much sweeter.
Absolutely. You are by far one of the busiest guys in metal right now. How do you keep everything straight?
I don't know. Which band am I playing with tonight? I don't know. I've been busy. It has its challenges. The main challenges are the physicality of it all and juggling two bands and family. It makes it rough. But there's a lot shittier positions you could be in than playing two legendary thrash bands and be busy. I could be sitting at home wondering what I'm going to do, which isn't bad. I'm lazy as hell when I'm at home. Everybody says I'm the hardest working guy in metal, but at home I don't do anything. I don't wear shoes for 5 days,
Well, I'm sure you've earned that, though.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe that's why when I get home I don't want to do anything, because I've done enough.
Is it ever challenging for you to switch hats, though, between Exodus and Slayer?
I got to remember which songs I'm playing on a certain night. I know a pretty vast amount of the Slayer catalog, and obviously, my knowledge of the Exodus one is even greater than that. It's all thrash metal to me. It's like as long as I do my homework and I show up prepared for a Slayer tour, I'm ready to go, and they know it. It's like I do most of my rehearsing at home. When Exodus, has work that I can't do, we use Craig and Loom from Heathen. I call him my stunt double. They just did 5-6 weeks in Europe without me, which is, it's in its own way sad and bittersweet, especially when I hear from friends of mine who say, I just saw Exodus at blah, blah festival, and I'm sitting in Boise, and it's, breaks my heart a little.
I was going to say, is that like hard to hear? Sometimes you're like, oh, I kind of wish I could clone myself. And
when your baby has to move on without you, and I completely 1,000% support them and respect them and back them in continuing to work when I can't be there. But yeah, it's. I remember the first time anybody ever said that to me. I think it was Troy from Mastodon. We were in Europe. I was with Slayer. And he goes, yeah, we just played with Exodus the other day. And I was like, that's the weirdest fucking thing I'd ever heard in my life, a guy who'd been on every album and never missed a show, ever, and people tell you they just saw your band play. It's bizarre, but, it's worked out well for all of us, and it's kept everybody busy.
Absolutely. So can you talk a little bit about the generational appeal of both bands? Because I find now that, it's across every generation. I mean, from kids all the way up to parents now bringing their, kids back out to shows again.
Yeah, it's the audience has gotten younger, as we age, which, it's awesome. It's bizarre. I don't quite understand it. Maybe you think it's something handed down from their parents. I don't know. But, there's so many young kids at the shows, be it a Slayer or Exodus show, when you see like 16-year-old kids with the patch jackets, that we wore when we were like 17 and 18, and they're front row and they know every song, they have every album, it's awesome. That's what's keeping the music going.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we've seen so many changes in the industry over the years, the biggest one being the uprise of social media and all that. Which one has had the biggest effect on, personally, the way you approach everything?
I know social media, that's something I only recently joined into, and I was almost pressured by my management to start an Instagram account, and she knows what I'm talking about. And it's just blown up. It's like, God, I think I got like 36,000, 35,000 followers, and all I do is post funny shit and cat pictures.
That's all anyone does on the internet.
And, and I throw out live photos and, tag my wife in pictures of her because I miss her, but I don't know, the biggest change obviously is downloading and lack of record sales, but at the same time there's so many amazing artists out there making amazing music. It's kind of gone underground again, which I think it's healthy for metal, you know, like as soon as everything gets too big, like when all the thrash bands and everybody was getting signed to major labels, you know, it was kind of doomed because the major labels don't understand it.
That's very true.
I mean, look at Slayer now, you know, they've joined Exodus as label mates at Nuclear Blast, a label that has every bit the distribution and the power as any major label, but they're all fans of the music, you know. It's like I've played countless shows with both bands and looked at the, you know, the people who've been running my record label, you know, and I signed in 2003 with Nuclear Blast, and see them over there just headbanging furiously. When I was with Capitol Records, that never happened. I don't think they showed up at the shows.
No, most likely not. You are
They
saying
certainly didn't ask me where the alcohol was, you know. So, you know, I think that's healthy. You know, it's become more run by people who know, love, and appreciate the music than people who are just looking at a bottom line and how much money can we make off this trendy music that kids seem to like, you know.
Do you feel now there's more pressure for bands to have to stay on the road longer? Because I feel like it's flip-flopped, you know, like where the tour would the album would support the tour, and now the tour kind of supports the album, and it's flipped.
I mean, back in the 80s, you know, Exodus would do an album, we'd tour for a year, and then we wouldn't tour for like a year while we wrote, and we wouldn't play. You know, we were under no pressure to be back out on the road right away. You know, we'd write an album, maybe do a couple hometown shows, maybe fly in and play like, you know, like when they used to have the New Music Seminar down in Los Angeles or CMJ or something like that. All right, you know, we'd go and play that. But, you know, it was not an issue to stay home for a year and not tour. And now, you know, it's like even the biggest bands have to tour. Even Metallica's over playing festivals every year in Europe, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I just feel like even now for smaller bands coming out, too, that they almost don't even know what to do anymore.
Yeah. I mean, some of these young pups, you know, they're on the road constantly. And I'm like, man, I don't know how you guys do it. You know, it's dedication, you know, they're doing it out of love. But, you know, we didn't have that problem when we were younger because we actually, you know, sold albums, you know.
So being the road warrior that you are, what's one of the most important lessons you've learned?
Drink less, sleep more.
That about sums it up.
That's pretty much my biggest lesson. I mean, I'm over a half century old. I can't behave like I did when I was, you know, 27, and where I took a day off from drinking about every 10 days.
It's young at heart.
Young at heart, yeah. Talked to my doctor about that and my arthritis, you know. But you know, I love doing what I'm doing, you know, and there's no place I'd rather be than on stage. The point A to point B in between, yeah, that's rougher than it was when I was young, you know. I remember when I saw my first tour bus, that was my bus. I think I about pissed my pants out of excitement, you know. Now it's like, where's my bunk, you know? I don't care. I don't even know how to operate the TV in the damn thing.
So obviously everybody wants to know, you know, details about the new Slayer album, and everybody is super excited for this. Can you talk a little bit about your part in the recording process?
You know, I went in and shredded out a bunch of leads, and you know,
wrist, right?
yeah, I blew my wrist out. You know, it's like it's not a common occurrence. It's never happened to me. But like partway through the soloing, I was like feeling like really nasty pain, but I shook it off and drank more beer, and I did all the album solos, you know, that were required of me in one day, and the next day I couldn't move my hand, you know, like, and we had dates coming up in like 7 days, so, you know, I went home and iced that thing down, you know, and I don't know, I just kinked a tendon or something, but, you know, the good thing I did finish it in a day because I wouldn't have been working again for another week or so, you know.
So how happy do you think fans are going to be with the I mean, I've heard 6 tracks off of it, and I think it's absolutely killer. It's brutal as hell.
Yeah, it's crushing. You know, it's Slayer. Although I think there's some new twists to it. You know, when you say it's Slayer, all right, you don't want it. You know, you want the fans to know that they're getting what they're expecting, but they're also at the same time they're not getting just rehash of anything done before. You know, there's some new things going on there. You know, and some pleasant surprises, and it's brutally crushing in the production. I think it's the best on any Slayer album I've ever heard.
Do you think that's important though, to keep adding those new elements. It's got to help keep it fresh, even for you guys as musicians, because I don't think anyone would want to record the same thing over and over again and then have to play the same thing over and over again.
Exactly. You know, I mean, look at like Iron Maiden. You know, fans will give them shit when they like go out on tour and actually play stuff off their new album. They're musicians, they're artists. They don't make those albums just for an excuse to go out and play one and do the show, you know, and they're brilliant songs and brilliant records they still make, and you know, people still want them to play, you know, only stuff off the first 3 records, you know, and I never understood that, you know, because as a fan, I've always wanted to hear like new things live.
Are you ever surprised by which songs fans gravitate towards, even with new stuff? You gotta have a feeling about one or the other, and then they totally go the opposite way.
Yeah, especially with Exodus, you know, which I have a greater insight into because, you know, I write most of it. And, you know, my favorite song on the album, you know, actually, if you ask Jack Gibson, our bass player, he says our favorite song on the album will always go over flat live. And I always try to tell him, I said, that's not the case. You're comparing like something that's moody and dark and slower to all the 1,000-mile-an-hour songs. And, of course, those ones are going to make the massive circle pit. And, you know, if you play something moodier, they're going to take a breather. It doesn't mean they don't like it. It's just not a freight train coming at them the entire time. And so there's something for them to absorb, you know. And, but, you know, I always like the fast stuff, and the fast stuff always goes over great, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
I love playing fast songs, you know.
I think those are the ones that just get the crowd so into it. Everybody loves to see a show, and that's what everybody's getting into. It's a crowd.
You know, the really brutal stuff is what's going to make them move, and so that's your visual cue that they like it, you know.
Oh, absolutely. So what is the rest of 2015 holding store? Obviously the album's coming out, but even for you personally with Slayer, Exodus, what's next on the horizon?
You know, we got Motorboat coming up in September, where I do double duty with both Exodus and Slayer.
I feel like Mosh Pits on the High Seas is going to be like an interesting thing.
I've played on a couple of boats, so you know, I've got experience at it.
Like the new It thing, these cruises like that.
Well, you know, we're the first band that played on the inaugural 70,000 tons. We kicked off the boat in the theater stage as it left port, and it was awesome, you know, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And then we got, you know, Slayer, we go to play Loud Park in Japan. And then, you know, we got Europe, and that leads us to the end of the year. And next year, I'm sure it'll be pretty much nonstop. So, staying busy.
Well, that's good. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking a few minutes to speak with me. I appreciate it. I definitely look forward to seeing you guys out again later this year.
I'll try not to let you down.